Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve hlul ukdeten min lisani yefkahu kavli. Selamun aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuhu. So inshallah, let's start with the 12th flash. And this is the second station of the 22nd word and the 12th flash.
I remember there was like the greatest name of that mighty Quran. That's where we ended. I was hoping one of you would have explained that.
This is from the 11th flash. At the very beginning, it says, as is defined in the 19th word, our Master Muhammad, the trustworthy, peace and blessings be upon him, is the supreme sign of the mighty book of the universe. Is the supreme sign of the mighty book of the universe. And the greatest name of that mighty Quran, the seed of the tree of the universe, and its most luminous fruit, the sign of the palace of the world and the radiant moon of the world of Islam. And it goes as, so it says, the greatest name of that mighty Quran. So how should we understand this part? Right, this is the question. Any ideas how Prophet Muhammad is the greatest name of that mighty Quran?
One question, is it the same in the Turkish version? What does it say? I just wanted to clarify that also.
Last week I checked in the Turkish version, and as far as I remember, it was same. It was the greatest name as well. So I don't think it's a translation issue. So again, any help? How should we understand the Prophet being the greatest name of mighty Quran?
Were you saying last week in Arabic name is like something that points somewhere or something like that?
Oh, it was about a 10th flash.
But
he was differentiating the name and the attribute and so on.
So if I'm trying to think, if a name points somewhere and he's the greatest name of that mighty Quran, is he like the greatest confirmation or like the greatest reason to believe in the Quran is what I'm thinking. Because otherwise names as qualities, I'm thinking like, merciful, or I think it doesn't make so much sense.
Any other suggestions? I see Hatice Beyza is there. She may have some ideas. Or Muhammad Saeed, Yusuf. Hatice Beyza, probably he's not in an environment where she's suitable for speaking. She says, I'm sorry I joined a bit late. What's the question? Okay. The question is, how should we understand? This is from the 11th flash. In the very beginning, it says, our Prophet is the greatest name of that mighty Quran. And the question is, how should we understand the Prophet being the greatest name of Quran? Okay, I can try to make some reflections. So for people who just came, we are discussing how should we understand the Prophet being the greatest name of Quran. I'm checking the Turkish version again. Does it say the greatest name of the Quran or Kur'an-ı Kebir'deki ismi azamı? Sorry?
Is he referring to the existence?
So it says, Kitab-ı Kebir'in ayet-i kübrası. We studied this part, the supreme sign of the Book of Universe. Ve o Kur'an-ı Kebir'deki ismi azamı. It's not obvious that, this of where it refers to. Is it like the greatest name of Book of Universe which is described in the Quran? Or is it the greatest name of the Quran?
My understanding is he's talking about the book that is being referred to as the existence itself, right?
Yes, at the very beginning he's talking about the existence.
He goes on.
But he said, he continues that he says the greatest sign, the supreme sign of the mighty Book of Universe, and that says this is Muhammad. So the greatest name is also Muhammad.
Yes, yes. My understanding is both are referring to, whenever he talks about book in there, he refers to the existence. So he refers to the existence as a book.
Okay, that part is clear.
In Quran, let's say, there is a greatest verse, or the Ayatul Kubra, like how did they translate?
The supreme sign.
Supreme sign in the Quran. And also within Quran, if you ask me question of what is the greatest name in Quran, how does Quran describe something as the greatest name, then you can say merciful, let's say. So I guess when it comes to the big Quran, the Quran of the existence, he is the supreme sign, and also he is the greatest name according to its existence. So I guess we need to go back and ask the question, what does it mean that there is a greatest supreme sign in the book Quran, the speech Quran, and also what does it mean that there is greatest name in the speech Quran? What does that mean?
Okay, and then how we understand that this greatest name being the Prophet. So that's, I guess, the encrypted, encrypted one.
Yes.
But the point that you started is important, so maybe you want to continue with it.
So I guess, we need to ask the question, what we understand when we say greatest supreme sign of Quran, I mean the speech Quran, and what we understand when we say supreme name, or the greatest name according to Quran. What does that mean?
So with the supreme sign, I guess we discussed enough last week.
Yes.
There were different aspects. One of them was being he's the sign which makes every other thing as a sign. So it tells us that everything should be read, everything is a sign, and also through his light everything becomes sign, and he's the one which has the kind of a concise meaning of all other signs.
Most comprehensive.
Most comprehensive, yes. So we discussed these different aspects. Now comes, he's the greatest name. So then, before coming to this one, a simple question. What is the greatest name in the Quran? If I tell you the greatest name in Quran is merciful, what would that mean to you?
The mercy prevails in the creation itself.
For the Quran, scripture. I mean, I am asking the more simpler question.
So if you ask the question of the greatest name being merciful in the Quran, what does that mean? Is that the question?
Yes.
Hatice Beyza adds something. She says, she thinks, I think it might also help to discuss what the text is referring to as Muhammad the trustworthy. So author here says Muhammad, he doesn't say just Muhammad or the Prophet. He says Muhammad the trustworthy, peace and blessings be upon him. So she says maybe this is relevant, we should also understand why he's specifically using this phrase, it may help us to understand. So going back to your question, what I understand something being the greatest name is, I would say that it's the name that I most clearly observe, and also it's a name that has the most relevance to myself. Like when I interact with this name, let's say, whatever it means, let's forget about all these details now. But when I interact with this name, I can understand, let's say, most about my creator. Now I can understand, how my creator fits in my life, to my life.
Like when we talk about the names, we talk about the attributes or the qualities of the creator, right? And if in the Quran, if it, like, let's say, merciful is defined as the greatest name, what I understand from it, that is the quality of the creator that is the most dominant over all other qualities.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's what I understand from the greatest name, if it is mentioned in the context that the question that you asked.
Yes. So let's say, since the author of Quran is the creator himself, let's say, if he is highlighting the merciful most, either literally or by the, let's say, language as it comes out, we would say, yes, he is highlighting himself most as the merciful. And when I look at this book, the first thing that comes to my mind is, author is merciful. So then, this is, I guess, one part of it. I don't have an answer. I'm trying to go through together with you. The second stage might be, we are going to move this to the Book of Universe, but before going there, what was our somewhat conclusions about names from 10th Flash? Names were some sort of abstractions of manifestation. There were levels of abstraction. First, it was
we see the work, we see the act, and then the actor, and
so there was these abstractions. So, name in this case was a finer level of abstraction, which was maybe immediately reminding us of the essence, or closer to the essence, because the work was a bit far away in our understanding of hierarchy, let's say. Hierarchy in my perception, not hierarchy in his being, but hierarchy in my perception. So the name was something that is closer to immediately maybe, or easily jumping from name to the self. So, and now then, in the existence, the book of existence, this person with his actions, and not only flesh and bones, with his personality, with his duty, he is the one that highlights its author most, as if the author has underlined this more than anything else. So when I look at the universe, I see this as the biggest message of the entire book. And also, it is something that reminds me of my maker more than a work would make me remember of my maker. Because it's like name. It's not like work or act. It's like name. So in this sense, maybe for the ease of its reminding me of my maker, it might be named as a name in here. I don't know if it makes sense. It might have been a little bit forced.
So, and maybe another aspect, like if we take the name as manifestation of some qualities of the creator, as Osman's saying. So, for instance, the one who speaks, the one who guides. These are the names, I guess, manifested through the prophet. And in this context, author maybe taking them as the the most elevated, or maybe the greatest name, because this is what humanity needs most. I see Asim. He was saying, sorry. Asim, you were raising your hand, so if you still want to, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I'm trying to think. Maybe the author is trying to explain what the supreme sign of the mighty book means, like the supreme sign of the mighty book, the universe. That is the greatest name of that mighty Quran, and then further explains the seed of the tree of the universe and its most luminous fruit. So maybe how we can understand what the supreme sign is, that if you see what Muhammad represents, peace and blessing be upon him, or what his name, in terms of what his significance, as soon as you hear that, the Prophet Muhammad, you immediately understand your source of existence. Like, as kind of what the supreme sign is, that his messengership is nothing but pointing to who your Lord is. So that's how, like, the supreme sign of the book of the universe is like equal to what the greatest name of the mighty Quran would mean. Not in terms of the greatest name of like the Lord of the universe, but in just to get you to realize who the Lord is, that like being the supreme sign leading you to your Lord. I don't know, I'm just like trying to understand this with all of you as well.
So, like, the 22nd verse has been citing the proofs of the oneness,
divine unity,
or the existence of divine unity, right? And he came to a point that in the 11th flash, he talks about the Prophet himself. Even though, like, it seems like there are two aspects to the text. One aspect looks to the Prophet himself, but at the same time, within the overall context of the 22nd verse, you see really praising Muhammad himself as a person, because that's how it seems like if you just take it literal. But at the same time, that's an aspect that looks to him. At the same time, since he's talking about the proof of divine unity, Prophet himself must be one of the proofs for the divine unity, and he must be one of the supreme proofs, or one of the greatest name that is manifested like in his own being, in the beings of the Muhammad Prophet, that points out another proof like that looks to the divine unity itself. So long story short, it seems like there are two aspects. One looks to the Prophet himself, but at the same time, him being the caller to the divine unity. There's another aspect looks to the Creator as a proof that is manifested in the being of the Prophet.
So, in the supplication of prophets, Jevshan, in there, actually the Prophet is teaching us of names in a maybe different way than we get used to about them. So, for instance, when it comes to the name Nur, he says, Ya Nur al-Nur, Ya Munawwir al-Nur, so, or the light of light, or the illuminator of light, Musawwir al-Nur, or the one that gives shape or designs light. So he goes on like this. And all of them are names of the Creator. At some point he says, the one who creates shadow, the one who is the Lord of slaves, the one who is the Lord of rich. These are all names of the Creator. So it gives us a different perspective than the regular names that we know of, like merciful, compassionate, this and that. So can it be that in here the author is saying that we can describe several names just pertaining to the messenger himself, or the one that is creator of Muhammad, or the one that is the designer of Muhammad, provide everything about whatever is being manifest in the Prophet himself. So in a sense, there are infinitely many names, or whatever you can observe in this existence, you can talk about a name pertaining to that. So, and it very much depends on your angle that you're looking at a thing. So as if he is now saying that this messenger, he himself is as if a name that is being manifest in there. And this name that's being manifest in there is the greatest name in this existence. Because it is, again, the most, due to just examining himself, it looks like he's the most important thing that is being manifest in this existence. So this is really the greatest name that we observe in the existence.
So you are saying that the entire existence can be, if we can say, like decomposed into names. Like entire existence is nothing but the collection of the names. Everywhere we see all these different names of the Creator. When I look at you, or Abdurrahman, or the door, or my lamp, or the chair, I see nothing but the names of the Creator. And when I look at the Prophet Muhammad, when I listen to him, when I study his life, when I study his personality, whatever, I see the greatest name of the Creator.
Because if I say the mercy that is being manifest on the Prophet is the greatest name, how about the wisdom that is being manifest on the Prophet? So think about all the things that are being manifest on the Prophet. Yes, this is the greatest manifestation in this existence.
And not the Prophet itself is one of the greatest names.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not just the wisdom I observed or mercy I observed, but the fact that there's a prophet sent us as a teacher, or what's the word in Quran, giver of the good news.
At the same time, there is this aspect that looks at the Prophet that he was the one who understood the best what it means, like what the divine oneness or divine unity means. That's why like he was the best exemplar of that truth. So it's true that like all those different names manifested in his being, but at the same time he was the one who reflected the best, understood best, and reflected how they are supposed to point it back to the divine unity. That is why he becomes the supreme sign of the Creator, or for the Creator.
One thing that was still bugging my mind was the distinction between name and manifestation of name. Because when I talk about the messenger, I am meaning about a person which was among us, like touchable, tangible human being, which is clearly a manifestation. But same thing applies for, let's say, the name Al-Qayyum in the Quran. When I talk about Al-Qayyum, if I am meaning the word Qayyum, which we hear by now, or which is written over paper with ink, it's a manifestation. It's something that is created. But when somebody says, what is the, if we mean Quran by speech of God, which is not created, then Al-Qayyum in there, which is never accessible to me. And whenever it is accessible to me, it's a manifestation for sure. But still I am talking about Al-Qayyum being the greatest name in Quran. Likewise, I guess the author is using a similar perspective in here. When I talk about Prophet, yes, definitely it's a manifestation for me. It is a created being. But when we say he is a greatest name of the book of this universe, the similar concept is being at play here. Like there is the greatest names manifestation is in. This is what it means, because I can only be I can only observe a manifestation, not the divine, anything divine inherently by itself. So this is why I guess the solution to the problem that was bothering me in there was when he says, how come a created being is going to be a divine name? But it's when we talk about created beings, we always talk about manifestations. And this is the case when we say Al-Qayyum being the greatest name. When I say Al-Qayyum's greatest name, I'm talking about my understanding of Al-Qayyum. So it is clearly a created and limited understanding. But still, I talk about it as greatest name which belongs to a creator. I guess the same applies here. So this doesn't make the messenger divine or anything like that. The author is not doing such a mystical saying in here.
So he's not talking about Jesus.
No.
Okay, since we at least tried, Asim, as you asked, at least we tried to answer what does it mean, the Prophet being the greatest name. I hope Abdurrahman and yourself are at least satisfied with our effort, and we can now continue with the 12th flash.
Are you satisfied?
Huh?
Are you satisfied with the answer?
It's good enough, I guess.
Okay, let's continue with the 12th flash, inshallah. Then.
The 12th flash, which has the strength of suns. Did we read this? Oh no.
No.
It says it again.
Yeah.
The 12th flash, which has the strength of suns. This 12th flash of the 22nd word is such an ocean of truths that all the previous 22 words form only 22 drops of it. And it is a source of such lights that they form only 22 flashes of that sun. Yes, all the previous 22 words are flashes of the stars of the verses shining in the skies of the Quran. All are single droplets from the river of a verse flowing from that ocean of discernment, distinguishing truth and falsehood. Each is but one pearl from a single of its verses, all of which are chests of jewels in the sublime treasury of God's book. Thus, the word of God, which is in small part defined in the 14th droplet of the 19th word, has been revealed from the greatest name, the sublime throne, and the greatest manifestation of dominicality. And it repeatedly states with all its strength within a breath and elevatedness that binds pre-eternity to post-eternity and ties the ground to the divine throne. And with the certainty of all its verses, there is no God but God. It calls the whole universe to witness and makes it testify. Yes, altogether the world hymns, there is no God but God. If you look at the Quran with the eyes of a sound heart, you will see that its 6 aspects are so brilliant and transparent that no darkness, no misguidance, no doubt or suspicion, no trickery could enter it or find a fissure through which to enter and violate its purity. For above it is the stamp of miraculousness, beneath it proof and evidence, behind it its point of support, pure dominical revelation, before it the happiness of this world and the next, on its right questioning the reason and ensuring its confirmation, on its left calling on the conscience to witness and securing its submission. Within it is self-evidently the pure guidance of the most merciful. Its outside observedly consists of the lights of belief, and its fruits, with all certainty, the purified and veracious scholars and saints who are adorned with all the human perfections and attainments. If you fasten your ear to the breast of that tongue of the unseen, you will hear from afar a most familiar and convincing and infinitely serious and elevated heavenly voice, equipped with proof which repeats, there is no God but God. It states this so certainly, it is at the degree of absolute certainty, and illuminates you with a knowledge of certainty, resembling vision of certainty.
Jazakallah, that's it. Next. Best I would say that the description was one of the best texts that I read about the Quran. Zaynab also enjoyed, I guess, reading it. So let's start from the beginning. Anyone wants to take the lead? Anyone who hasn't done it recently? Okay, go ahead, please, Yusuf.
So I'm reading the first paragraph slowly. The 12th flash, which has the strength of suns. This 12th flash of the 22nd word is such an ocean of truths that all the previous 22 words form only 22 drops of it, and it's a source of such lights that they form only 22 flashes of that sun. Yes, all the previous 22 words are flashes of the stars of the verses shining in the skies of the Quran. Shining in the heavens of the Quran. Yes, all the previous 22 words are flashes of the stars of the verses shining in the heavens of the Quran. All are single droplets from the river of a verse flowing from that ocean of discernment, distinguishing truth and falsehood. Each is but one pearl from a single of its verses, all of which are chests of jewels in the sublime treasury of God's book. Any comments about what we read so far? So the things that were written being droplets or flashes from Quran.
What do you want us to say? That it was an ocean, not a droplet? Like,
What?
he's asking if you have comments, but
Oh,
yes, they were good droplets, meaningful droplets.
What do you think about the claim that it came up?
That they're all droplets?
12 flash is talking about the Quran itself, right? As a proof for divine unity.
proof flash.
And in the paragraph, he says that, like, if you want to understand how big this proof is, refer to the first 22 words that has been written as an attempt to extract some meaning of some of the verses from the Quran.
But you will only do it to the extent the comparison of drop to ocean and droplet to the ocean.
So, like, when you look at the first 22 words, do you find them to be such a vast proof for the truthfulness and as a proof for the divine unity? Çocuk hiçbir şey biliyoruz ya. Silahlık kararız ya.
Sorry, online folks, baby is feeding in here, and people are making comment about me.
The one interesting part, the way he describes these verses as lights, as rivers, also verses shining in the skies. So, like a river, ocean, or sunlight, they all, kind of lively things, right? They're not just static, they're just dynamic, they're flowing or emitting lights. And author says, I was only able to, catch one drop out of it. But if you like, you can also dive into the river, or I was just trying to say put your hand into the river, but you can also dive. Yes. So your interaction with the Quran would be similar to your interaction with the river. Not just watching, but even when you watch, you will see something is flowing, changing.
And the symbols that he uses in here are symbols from Quran again, because sea and river, or the jewels and the pearls, or the skies and stars like samawat. These terminology are being used in Quran. And now the author is as if also showing us a way, saying that when you read these verses, you can also take them as those verses are talking about the Quran itself. For there are two seas which doesn't mix to each other, let's say. And this is one of the gifts of your Lord. So in Surah Ar-Rahman, so the two seas, they don't mix with each other. Do you still deny the favors of your Lord? So now, as if he's saying that this verse is describing the Quran itself, the two seas that are not being mixed. One of such a meaning is, Quran is this rivers and the seas. Quran itself is such a thing. So it is West, and you can just get as meaning from it as you wish. And if you would like to take an example, here this book is such an attempt to take something from, benefit something from Quran. And again in Surah Ar-Rahman, this pearl is, from this sea comes out pearl. And in here he says, the things that you have seen in this book is like pearls from this treasury. So you dive into the sea, you take some pearls, as Surah Ar-Rahman is describing in there, as if the author is saying that this chapter is talking about Quran itself.
That's exactly the same analogy also author was doing in another place, right? When he was talking about the differences of interpretations of the sayings and so on. Or maybe the different understanding of the things. He was giving this example that people would dive into ocean to get some jewels, and they will be different from each other. So.
Any other comments? Online participants? Looks like everybody's all set. So I continue reading. Each one is but one pearl from a single of its verses, all of which are chests of jewels in the sublime treasury of God's book. Thus, the word of God, which is in small part defined in the 14th droplet of the 19th word, has been revealed from the greatest name, the sublime throne, and the greatest manifestation of dominicality. And it repeatedly states with all its strength, within a breath, and elevatedness that binds pre-eternity to post-eternity, and ties the ground to the divine throne. And with the certainty of all its verses, there is no God but God. It calls the whole universe to witness and makes it testify. This sounds like an intense sentence. Any comments about this sentence? Quran being revealed from the greatest name, sublime throne. What is sublime throne? We talked about greatest name, but what is sublime throne? We didn't talk about that. Any comments from on-site participants?
So there's a classification ranks, like the classes, on-site participants, online participants.
Yes, front row, back row.
We are the business class. So one thing comes to my mind is when it says Quran is revealed from the greatest name or sublime throne, I take it from the other way, and I say if I look at the Quran, if I study Quran, this is where I'm going to reach the greatest name, because it was revealed from greatest name. So if I study Quran, I should be reaching to the greatest name. Or if I study Quran, I should be reaching to the sublime throne. So whenever I reach through Quran, this is what you call a sublime throne. I guess same thing can be said for the creation. Everything through studying, through reading, which takes you to your Lord, is the place where you see the manifestation of sublime throne. Because through studying it, through reading it, you reach the sublime throne.
What is the sublime throne?
The locus of all these names that you observe.
What is throne, Abraham, before sublime throne? God's throne, what does that remind you?
His kingdom.
Good. So if let's say American president has a throne in I don't know, Washington, and also in Hawaii, and also in Alaska, what would that mean?
He has power over those areas. He rules.
Yeah.
Or there's something there which represents the president. Right? This is how it works. So when, for instance, in our country, our president has several thrones, like figuratively speaking, but also, I guess, literally, yeah. At several places. For instance, he has one throne in Ankara, which is his place, usual place, right? You can find him. He has another throne in Dolmabahçe Sarayı in Istanbul, which he accepts visitors, like foreign visitors and so on. There's something there which represents the president. It says this place belongs to the president. This is under his control or command. He has these several thrones which represents his presence and his ruling.
What would be a throne of creator that comes to your mind?
Existence.
You started to be. You were looking for local thrones first.
Oh, like Mecca?
So, for example, like animal kingdom is a certain type of manifestation, right? Animal, just there's a certain way of manifestation in there. But also, if you would like to go a different classification, let's say water is a throne of creator. Because in water, he manifests a different existence totally if you go under the sea, for example. Or the water in your body, the water of, let's say, water of our life that makes all species of life being manifested through water. So water is a throne, air is a throne, because in air you observe manifestation of all names. So now, when it comes to supreme throne, again we are going up with this.
And wait, so when you see the manifestation of the names, these are his representatives, and that's why you're saying this is like one of his thrones.
Yeah, I don't see the king himself, but I see that there is a ruling, a certain ruling taking place. Let's say, in the example of Şükran, you went to Ankara, you don't see the president himself, but you see the signs of his rulership everywhere in this palace. Okay, so you say that this is a throne because I do observe rulership in here. And if the guy dies and then let's say the republic is dissolved and everything is gone, even if there is a literal throne over there, it's not really a throne anymore. It's just a chair. Nobody cares. There's no rulership left. Right? So, as long as you see some sort of rulership there, you call it a throne.
A reserved parking of, for instance, the president of UPenn, like there's a reserved parking for her. It's a throne of this president, the lady. When you see this reserved parking, you know that she's there.
So likewise, you observe that your heart becomes a throne of the Creator. You become a throne of the Creator. Because you observe that ruling or somebody taking care of things. It's manifesting in your existence, in your heart, in your body. The whole existence, now coming to what you said, existence is his throne. So sublime throne in this case means anything that is manifesting. This is his sublime throne. The existence is his throne.
So it's not a single place. So there's a locus. I was thinking, where is that single place?
No. I mean, space-time wise, it's not a single place. It's the whole existence. And even when because in the 10th flesh, we already talked about these abstraction levels. So when you say sublime throne now, we shouldn't be thinking about a location in existence or something like that. This is where we observe the manifestation of this kingdom. This is where it is manifest. But when we talk about the aspect of this kingdom that looks to him, then it's totally unknown to us, which is absolute in all its senses. So sublime throne in this case would be, for its aspect that looks to me, it is the whole existence. For its aspect that looks to him, it's absolute, I have no clue. But I know that such a thing exists because of the manifestation. The existence is his throne. Because in all different angles and aspects, it's a manifestation of his kingdom or rulership. Is it okay, Abdurrahman?
It makes sense.
Okay, so Quran has been revealed from the greatest name, the sublime throne, and the greatest manifestation of dominicality. And it repeatedly states with all its strength, within a breath and elevatedness that binds pre-eternity to post-eternity and ties the ground to the divine throne. Any questions, comments about these, or it is very clear, self-explanatory? Let's move on to the next paragraph. Awesome. We take requirements as it is self-evident and very clear. Move on. Is that correct? It looks like it is.
So maybe one comment says it repeatedly states with all its strength within a breadth and elevatedness. So states then it's so like at the very end of the sentence, there is no God but God. So it repeatedly states there is no God but God. But when he states that, he does it in a way which, within a breadth and elevatedness that binds pre-eternity to post-eternity and ground to the divine throne. So stating there is no God but God in a way which binds pre-eternity to post-eternity. How should I understand that? Like there's one aspect comes to my mind is it states that in a way that there's no gap. It doesn't leave any gap from pre-eternity to post-eternity. So when he says there is no God but God, he means everything. There is no escape from that, or there is no exception to that. That's one aspect which comes to my mind. Is there any other aspects or interpretations you can think of? But to me, it sounds or it feels still there is something missing to what I said.
Another meaning might be this pre-eternity. Like in philosophy, matter is considered to be eternal, as if from the very beginning, and there's no very beginning, going this way to the past, and the existence will continue by itself to the future. So the Quran's way of explaining says that pre-eternity and post-eternity, with its true meaning, means absolute and is only a valid description for the absolute creator. And there is no pre-eternity and post-eternity as it pertains to the existence itself. Because we have this illusion, the philosopher said this illusion that, well, matter exists by itself and the causes create effect, and this goes all the way to the before, in the past, and it will keep going to the future. So this was our disillusionment about the pre-eternity and post-eternity. We will call it matter is eternal, like using the philosophical terminology. I guess we don't say pre-eternal, post-eternal, but matter is eternal. It existed forever. Matter is not created means it was always existing. So eternal.
Matter itself is God.
What's it?
Matter is not created, it is pre-eternal, means matter itself is God.
Yeah. So what Quran is binding pre-eternity and post-eternity together might also mean that this concept is not valid for the matter itself, for the existence itself. You cannot talk about such a thing for the existence. It's only valid for, you can only talk about eternity for the absolute. There's no eternity for the created beings or the existence, the changing things.
And ties the ground to divine throne. So what I understand from here is, through this statement, there is no God but God, from ground I reach to divine throne. It states this phrase or proposition, there is no God but God, in a way which connects me from ground to divine throne.
So it's like establishing vertical relationships instead of horizontal relationships.
And I established this relationship through this proposition, the truthness of this proposition. There is no God but God. That's an interesting translation. Like I just realized, like we always say, there is no God but God. But this is not the way Quran uses it, right? La ilaha illallah, illa Allah. It doesn't say there is no God but God. It says there is no God but Allah, or there is no God but He. Is there any like the phrase in Quran which really translates there is no God but God?
So I would assume the translator considers Allah as a proper name for God, like translation.
I see,
but not ilah, but Allah. So
yeah.
So I guess what you're asking is la ilaha illa. I guess in English.
The God as a concept, like a God, with small or big G. Or like a Turkish, we say for instance, Tanrı, right? But such a concept is not used in Quran, because in Quran, Creator is always described whether through his proper name or through his, the names as we discussed, just which refers to, its artworks and actions, or abstractions through his actions and so on, or sometimes as just some adverb, not adverb, sorry.
Adjective.
No, the he.
Pronoun.
Pronoun, yes. Just two pronouns. I just realized this, I was thinking about this recently. And now I realize that, we always say there's no God but God. And just because we put a capital G, we think this covers, how Quran treats or introduces us the Creator. But even the capital G, God, is, yes, it's a concept which is prevalent or exists in many religions. But I guess Quran give us another perspective in this matter. I don't know, is there any part, he says, for instance, in Surah Nas, Malikin Nas, Ilahin Nas, Ilah of humanity. But even there, it's just to describe one aspect of Allah, one aspect that we perceive Allah as.
I think there's a verse that says, do you associate other gods with him? Something like that. Using the word ilah. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, but anyway, it's another topic. But I just realized that, this translation sounds or seems very innocent or simple, but I think it's not. That's all I want to say. I'm not sure, the God with capital G is a proper way to describe what is explained in Quran.
Any other comments? Online participants are very quiet today.
Yes, in Turkish, the phrase is La ilaha illa huve. Not even Allah or Ilah. Should we continue?
Again. Okay, and with the certainty of all its verses, there is no God but God. It calls the whole universe to witness and makes it testify.
It calls the whole universe to witness and makes it testify. So both witnessing and testifying. So universe both manifests this fact and also every part of the universe observes this fact.
Isn't that a contradiction? All of the universe is saying there's no God but God, but it's also calling them to say there's no God but God.
So let me try to give an example that let's assume for a second you are a wise guy.
Big assumption.
So by being a wise guy, you yourself testify that there is wisdom. By looking at you, for instance, I see that there is wisdom. But at the same time, you observe yourself. You also witness it, that there is wisdom. You witness it observe it from the first hand. Would you say from the or by the first hand?
From first hand.
Okay, from first hand that there is a wisdom.
So to add support,
And you also testify that there is wisdom. Well, I guess the part that I want to highlight is when we say universe to witness, it also implies that there's a consciousness of the universe or consciousness of every part of the universe that can witness.
So Quran makes a claim, and to prove his claim shows that, look, this universe is approving my claim. So this is universe becomes like proof. But then also gives me a worldview, so much so that the whole universe becomes conscious worshippers as much as I am observers, and they themselves declare consciously that there's no God but God.
So the chair, as I usually perceive, cannot witness anything. Can be part of something, but cannot witness anything. But the way author describes it, the chair witnesses divine unity.
A chair testifies the talent of its maker.
That's part, I guess, easier to understand.
Yeah, but not witness. Yeah. In our
visual perception, yes. We can say, oh yeah, it testifies that there's no God but God. But author says it also witnesses that there's no God but God, which I guess in return makes the testimony even stronger. Because, for instance, when we talk about what happens, let's say, in Syria, and Ömer comes and gives us a testimony. He says, oh, I made a research that this happens, that happens, and so on. This is the bad guy, this is the good guy. But then we hear something similar, or maybe something contradicting what he says, doesn't matter, from a first-hand witness. Somebody from Syria comes and tells us, oh no, this is what happens and this is what happened. This is the bad guy, this is the good guy. So having the testimony of a witness, for us, it's more convincing. So it's like it doesn't only change your worldview by saying that everything witnesses the divine unity, it also puts something more to divine unity. The fact that everything witnesses divine unity.
Yes, altogether, the world hints there is no God but God. If you look at the Quran with the eyes of a sound heart, so I guess this eyes of a sound, sound heart is a Quranic term, qalbun salim, and the author is talking about look to Quran with eyes of a sound heart.
And there's, correct me if I'm wrong, in Quran also, the Creator mentions that the ones who look Quran with a not broken but like an opposite of Selim heart, like they don't understand because the Turkish translation is kalbinde eğrilik olanlar. So you cannot get the truth of things when there's something wrong with your heart. So thus you should look at the Quran if you want to get the truthness with a sound heart.
If you look at the Quran with the eyes of a sound heart, you will see that its 6 aspects are so brilliant and transparent that no darkness, no misguidance, no doubt or suspicion, no trickery could enter it or find a fissure through which to enter and violate its purity.
Yeah, what is fissure?
Crack or something.
Okay.
So anybody wants to make any comment about these sound hearts? My heart is so sound, and this is what it sounds like. I don't know. Any comments about a sound heart or eyes of a sound heart? You can make a few comments. Well, it's interesting. I mean, approaching a book with heart. Generally, we tend to approach books with our mind. So what does it mean that approaching a book with a sound heart?
Again, isn't it a phrase from Quran, like a thinking with heart? They think with their heart. When I remember the first time, I guess I was, how to say, the first time I realized this phrase was when a friend was objecting the truthness of the Quran by saying, don't you see there's such a phrase there, thinking by heart, and he was saying, in old times, which is kind of true historically, in old times the people tend to think that the locus of thinking is the heart. Now we think it's the brain. Now in the old times it was heart. And he was saying, this is the old knowledge, when the Quran was written, people were still thinking, the locus of the mind is heart. So that's the reason it says they think with their heart. As if Quran is a biology or, a philosophy book. Teaching us, how people think. So that would be, like according to this logic, there should be another ayah, the verse, which talks about, how the blood circulation, how it's clean in the lungs, and so on.
Muhammad Said have written a comment, feeling no genuine need for a guidance. Okay, so the first sentence is the meaning of not sound heart. So unsound heart, feeling no genuine need for a guidance. And for the sound heart, he says, as needy heart, a searching heart. A searching heart aware of its need. Let's put it this way.
The way I understand it is just like a peaceful heart. When you look at a text, try to read it in a way that it's consistent, it doesn't contradict you, like it makes sense that what you read, you can witness in the Quran. Whatever you read in the Quran, you should be able to, it should make sense to you. Like without prejudice and bias. And open up yourself and accept, get rid of your biases.
So peaceful in here might be a good word because you might want to enter into a relation with Quran as a troublemaker. I am going to establish a relation, but I am looking for the slightest opportunity to cause trouble. I am looking at it so that I'm going to find faults in it, for example. When I enter this relationship, I am already starting the relationship to cause a fight at some point. This is my initial intention. I'm not peaceful. Right? You think about such a relationship with a friend, with a person. So somebody is introducing you with a new person, but while even shaking hands, you are looking for some sort of a problem to just pinpoint and say that this guy is wrong or just start causing trouble. So you are not peaceful at all. Even no fight has started yet, but from the very beginning, I can give nice examples to that, but never mind. I don't want to cause trouble. But anyways, I guess this is an unfriendly relationship before even it starts. But as you said, if you are unbiased or your intention is, well, let's see if maybe this is a good person, let's give it a try. And if it is good, I'm going to benefit it because I'm in need of friendship. If not, well, it's not. So with such a perspective, let's say, okay, you will see that its 6 aspects are so brilliant and transparent that no darkness, no misguidance, no doubt or suspicion, no trickery could enter it or find a fissure through which to enter and violate its purity. Because above it is the stamp of miraculousness. Beneath it, proof and evidence. Behind it, its point of support, pure dominical revelation. Pure dominical revelation.
The universe?
Okay, Wahide Rabbani. Pure dominical revelation. Before it, the happiness of this world and the next. On its right, questioning the reason and ensuring its confirmation. On its left, calling on the conscience to witness and securing its submission. Within it is self-evidently the pure guidance of the most merciful. Its outside observably consists of the lights of belief, and its fruits with all certainty the purified and veracious scholars and saints, who are adorned with all the human perfections and attainments. Good. So, these are nice points if you would like to talk about them, and we have, I guess, 4 minutes. Because we will need to pray. So we should end early today.
I guess one thing could be said is, and the author giving all these different aspects of Quran, the aspects that we should be aware when we approach the Quran, that we should know that there's one aspect of Quran which is show us the stamp of miraculousness. Another one is all about the proof and the evidence. Another aspect is the dominical revelation. Another aspect is the happiness of this world and the next. Another one is the questioning the reason and ensuring its confirmation. So guidance to telling us what is wrong, what is right, what is right, what is not right. Or it's like a, not a test, but I don't know how to say, but it's a thing that you can test your reasoning, whether it is verification maybe. Evaluate your own reasoning to ensure its confirmation. So seek for confirmation, the place to seek confirmation. So let's conclude here. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.